Hello, I'm Father Louis Scurti with Friends of the Word. We thank you for joining us. And as you can see from the vestment, change of season. Today is the first Sunday of Advent. We'd like you to be on our email list, so contact me at lscurti@hotmail.com. And we thank you for joining us at Friends of the Word. Pass the word on. Let's celebrate the Lord's Word and life in our own lives. God bless you, and thank you for joining us. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "There'll be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and the earth and nations will be in dismay, perplexed by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will die in fright in anticipation of what is coming upon the earth. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken, and then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud, power and great glory. But when these signs begin to happen, stand erect and raise your heads, because your redemption is near at hand. Beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing and drunkenness and the anxieties of daily life. On that day it may catch you by surprise like a trap. For that day will assault everyone who lives on the face of the earth. Be vigilant at all times, and pray that you have the strength to escape the tribulations that are imminent and to stand before the Son of Man." The Gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. All the good stuff you did last year, Christmas, the sharing, the gifts, the cookies, the celebration, the lights, all the good stuff you did this past Thanksgiving, if you opened your house to anyone, if you shared, if you put the baskets together for food, for the parish, for the poor, all of that good stuff, not enough. Not enough. Paul says it very clearly today. More is needed. So don't sit back and say, "I did that." Not enough. We're to live as if Jesus were going to come through that door any minute. This is Advent, a season of waiting, Adventus, waiting. And the waiting focuses on the Christmas event that happened over 2,000 years ago. And the world knows that. You know it already. You've started your list, you started your wrapping, you started your decorating. So the world already knows that we're celebrating an event that already happened in history. And years ago, Pius Parsh, a spiritual writer, talked about the three ways Christ comes to us: in history, in the future, and in the Eucharist. So while the world is out there preparing and getting ready for December 25th, don't get caught up in only that. Do it. Do all that stuff. Not enough, but do it. Get caught up. Put your list together. Start thinking what you're going to give to charity before the end of the year, so you can take it off, and the taxes. Decide what you're going to do for Eva's Kitchen, for the shelter programs, for Catholic Charities, Caritas. Go do all that. Not enough, but do it anyway, because we're getting ready for Jesus to return. And when is he going to return? I don't know, and you don't know. But Jesus warned us in the Gospel today, very interesting. This is the year of Luke. We begin the C cycle. Okay, the first Sunday of Advent always begins a new liturgical year. And in the Gospel of Luke, we hear this section, an apocalyptic section. You heard it a few weeks ago at Mark. You heard it from the book of Daniel. Apocalyptic sections of the Scriptures. They come about when things are rough. And when this was written, around 62 maybe, things were rough. There was no temple. It was already destroyed. The Romans came in and destroyed the temple. The people, living in Jerusalem, you must have thought it was hell. You must have thought it was the end of the world. You must have thought it was like the stars falling out of the sky. Don't forget, they were in Jerusalem. Maybe word got around eventually by horseback into another town, another country even. But while they were there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, no email. What they experienced was here, right in front of us. So when Luke composes this section of the gospel, he recalls what happened. And he recalls the destruction of Jerusalem. He recalls things falling out of the sky, bombs bursting in the air, and awful, awful experiences that made it seem like the end of the world was near. Don't get so caught up in that kind of stuff. That's temporary. It's just a little blip in our Gospels, a little blip in our Scriptures, the apocalyptic, the piece in our Gospels that warns about the end times. Because we get so caught up in that little chapter, whether it's Mark, whether it's Luke, whether it's Daniel, whether it's Revelation, then we fall into a cult of like the Twilight, a cult of the Walking Dead, the cult of the vampires, the cult of getting in touch with the other world. Come on, that's all crap. You don't need that stuff. You got the gospel to go with. And if we get caught up into that little apocalyptic section of the Gospels, we miss the whole message of the Gospels. Jesus says, you'll see the Son of Man coming on the cloud. You know the Son of Man, of course, from the book of Daniel. The Son of Man was the antithesis of all the monsters that Daniel saw in his vision. And the Son of Man was hope. The Son of Man was a man born of a woman coming to us on a cloud, someone very special who was going to save us. We're going to be saved through a man. No secret. We know who the man is, Jesus Christ. And we're saved through that man. And that man happened to be the capital Son of Man, because he's the Son of God as well. So when he came 2,000 years ago, he didn't push that God character. He pushed the man character. He pushed the humility character. He pushed the context in which we could walk with him character. He wants us to know he's one of us. Emmanuel was the prediction. Emmanuel, God with us, was his nickname in the predictions of Isaiah, centuries before Jesus even shows up. So what we're emphasizing as we look to the end, and we have an appreciation that Jesus is, in the Gospel of Luke, telling the people, hey, life's awful. Life's topsy-turvy. Life's full of turmoil. But you who have faith, you have the Son of Man on your side. You are going to hold your head up high. And don't get mixed up with what's going on. You know, remember, I think back to like 2000. Remember that whole incident that everybody said, oh, the end of the world, the end of the world, the end of the world. Well, we all know that the Gregorian calendar is off about 6 years. So what would have been 2000 was really like, 1994. That was the 2,000 years from the birth of Christ. So they said 2000 is going to be the day it comes apart. Nothing came apart. Nothing came apart. We were here on the midnight of the 31st, and we're here on the morning of the 1st. Nothing came apart. The end of the world didn't come. But if you go through your Google and put predictions of the end of the world, Madon, there are so many predictions of the end of the world, like as if the people who put that input into Google know what they're talking about. But even Jesus told us, nobody knows, not even the Son, only the Father. So you put predictions of the end of the world, and you'll see them every century from the time of Jesus. As a matter of fact, this first letter from Paul to the Thessalonians, it's the first piece of Scripture we have. That letter is the earliest thing we have in Scripture, Paul's letter to the Thessalonians. He's talking about Jesus returning. He thought in his lifetime, in the early Scriptures, that Jesus is going to return in his lifetime. That's why he tells, don't worry, those who have died, they'll be all right, because Jesus is going to come back and wake them up. It didn't happen. Jesus did not return. The theology is there that Jesus will bring us back out of our graves at the end of time, but Jesus didn't return then. And every century, every decade that we have these predictions of the end of time, there's a war at the end of time. The most horrible event in our history as Americans is 9/11. You know, And how many of soothsayers, oh, that's the end of time, God's getting back at us. Go take a walk for yourself. Who are you who dare predict what Jesus himself said is not predictable by any person? So let's not get caught up into the end of time. You know what the end of time is? When you close your eyes in death. You know when the turmoil and the let's just quote Jesus, the roaring of the sea, the fright that kills people, anticipation of what's happening. You know when that happens? When that person you love is in the hospital. When that person you love, God forbid, just got hit by a car. When someone comes down with diagnosis of cancer or some other illness. That's when it starts. That's when the anticipation and agony starts. And how many people in this church? It starts different times for all of us. And you know, you've been there. And Jesus is the only hope in those moments of anticipation, of anxiety, the only hope that gets us through it. Because he went through it. He came as a baby, as a human being, to show us what it means to be a human being and to let us know he doesn't forget us. He weeps with us, he smiles with us, he laughs with us. He's with us. He's our support. He's our knight in shining armor. He's our Son of Man on the cloud. He's everything to us. He's our hope. So we're anticipating these 4 weeks of Advent, a reaffirmation of the hope we have in Jesus. He already came in history, so we have him. He's going to come at the end of time, but we don't know when that is. Some of us might be dead tomorrow. That's the end of time for us. Some of us might be dead in 100 years. I don't know. Maybe the kids can live that long, right? So they'll be 110 years old by then. Maybe that's it. But we don't have a clock. We have no calendar. So whenever your anxiety reaches fever pitch, that's when we need to hold on to Jesus. That's when we need to prepare ourselves for Jesus. And that's when we need to bring him back into our lives. Because he's with us always. Hey, I'm not God. I probably couldn't be with you always. But he is God. And he promises to be with us always. So when you have trouble with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, when you have trouble with your husband or your wife, when you have trouble with the results of a hurricane, he's with us. He's not going to magically wave a wand and make it. He's not the Wizard of Oz. He's not going to make it all go away with fire and brimstone and beautiful lights. No, he's within us, giving us the courage to be strong as we go through the anxieties. And the rest of us, go back to St. Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, do more. Do more for the poor. Do more for those who are hurricane victims. Do more for the sick. Because whatever you did is not enough. I'm sorry, it's not enough. You got to do more, he tells us. To really deserve Jesus. It's almost as if Paul is telling us, when Jesus comes, he wants to be proud of you. Paul wrote to people of Thessalonica. What happened was he was there preaching, and then he had to leave because of politics. People got afraid of him because he was converting the Gentiles, so he left. And he wrote back just to be in touch. And those who were there wrote to him. So there's letters, correspondence going back and forth. But he said, the love that you have for each other, and I'm telling you this from Paul. He's telling you this. Don't people at Thessalonians. He's telling you this. May the Lord make you increase and abound in your love one for another, just as he, Paul, has for us. And may he strengthen your hearts so you be blameless before God and earnestly earn Jesus Christ. Conduct yourselves in a way to please God. 365 days a year, not just the 4 weeks of Advent. And so conduct yourselves in imitation of Jesus. For the instructions you have about how to do it is Jesus. And it's from Jesus. So we know the charitable works that are necessary. We know the works of patience that are necessary in our families. We know the communication that's necessary in our families. You did it good this year? Do it better next year. You didn't do so good next year? Well, then roll up your sleeves and use these 4 weeks of Advent to really look inside and say, why am I so selfish? Why am I holding back? Why am I not forgiving? Why am I not cutting off? And sometimes you need to cut off people. Sometimes people are so toxic in your life, you can't talk to them. But you can certainly pray for them. And you can certainly do good by them. You don't have to get them involved. You don't get a splinter and stick it under your finger and say, oh, this is my cross. I got to suffer with this person. No. They're toxic. You don't go near them. You run. I heard a Baptist minister once years ago in a convention to clergy. And he says, man, when the devil's after you, you don't deal with the devil. You don't duel with the devil. You don't talk to the devil. You turn your back and you run. Yes. You run from the devil. You run from toxicity. You run from what is evil. Don't get absorbed into it because you think you can handle it. No. Pray first. But be on guard all the time, the scriptures tell us. Be on guard because every moment that we have with another person is an opportunity to get closer to Christ. And sometimes getting closer to Christ might be to avoid a person, place, or thing. Getting closer to Christ might be forgiving. Getting closer to Christ might be giving. Hey, Jesus says you don't know when it's going to happen, so you got to be consistent. Why? It could be like a trap. Could you imagine, God forbid, you have a fight with someone you love, you tell them to go to hell, you tell them all bad things, and you go out and you get killed by a car? Whoa. Now, I'm not going to say, Jesus is going to say, oh, you're bad, you're going to go to hell. That's not Jesus. That's not Jesus' style. But to know that I cursed that person I love, I did bad by him or her, and now I can't even say I'm sorry. Don't let any day go by without apologizing, without fixing, without don't go to bed mad. I used to tell my clients, don't go to bed mad. You never know if you're going to wake up. That's what Jesus means here. Because it can come upon us like a trap. So these weeks of Advent are supposed to give us strength. Enjoy yourself. Go to the parties. Always be a Christian at the parties. Always be someone who's in the Advent season, even at the Christmas parties. Because Jesus warns us, don't be carousing, don't let down your guard, don't let the anxieties of life control you, because the day I return will be like a trap. So I think we have an okay to go prepare. Hang your lights, hang your tinsel, do all that good stuff as we prepare these 4 weeks. Because the real preparation is not 4 weeks. The real preparation is for his return. Yes, at the end of time, as the Son of Man, but at our particular moments in our lives when we need him most, he's right there for us. He came as a vulnerable baby who dirtied his diaper, who cried for his mother's milk. This is God. How much more does he need to do to tell us he is one with us? How much more can he do to show the depth of his love for us by the cross? How much more do we need to affirm life in Jesus who is resurrected? With all that down, with all that rooted within us, let's prepare. Prepare the way of the Lord. For when he comes, we'll be ready.